goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives, where we sit down with special guests and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so that you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. And who are we? Well, I'm Simon, and this is my ho-ho-ho. Together we are Cinemate Films, Scottish-based wedding filmmakers, and we love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the wedding industry. This episode is, of course, sponsored by With Jack, but I will get onto that a little bit later in the show. Hey, Greg. Who are we talking to?
We are talking to Ed Godden. Hello, Ed. How are you doing?
Hello, Ed.
How are we doing? You all right, guys?
Not too bad.
We're doing very well. Thank you for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for asking me. Nice to see you again after all these years.
After all these years, I know.
I believe it was 2015. That was a long time ago that we worked together.
Oh
yeah,
God.
I looked it up. I was like, when was it? I know it was a while ago. And that was it was sort of a micro wedding, like before they were popular, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say it was possibly.
Yeah.
Actually, it was easily the smallest wedding I had ever shot, and I didn't. I'm a bit very relaxed when it comes to weddings, and I don't ask many questions. And when I arrived at that one, I thought I probably should have asked how many guests were going to be at this. Because with there 12, I think there were. In total, I think there were 14 of us, including the three of us, wasn't there?
I think so,
something like that. Something like that. I mean, it was one of the kind of smallest weddings that we'd probably shot at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of a strange one because, I don't know if you remember, but we got to the end of the night, and they weren't really doing anything. They didn't have any music organized, and I think they were trying to, and I have this recollection of us helping the family get music sorted. And do you remember this?
I think you fixed the PA or something.
I fixed the PA, and I felt so happy because everyone was just like so full after dinner. And then they were very happy that we got the music playing. And I felt really proud of myself.
Putting that audio engineering degree to good use.
Yeah, the dinner that we sat round with all of them having as well, didn't we? I think it was weren't we on one big table, and it was just a bit bonkers. And what was even weirder was 3 or 4 days after that, I took a trip over to, I think it was Tobermory. I got on the ferry. I looked around. I thought they look familiar, and it was all of them. they were going over for the day as well. So bumped into them a few days later. Small world,
yeah. But that was before micro weddings were a thing.
Yeah, they invented it.
We invented it, world. Take that. But yeah, so before we get started, I'm just going to drink my coffee. I do want to bring attention to this huge big thing of coffee. Greg, how many methods of brewing coffee do we have now in the office?
A few.
We've got far too many, and so this is my first attempt at doing whatever this thing is called.
Mocha Master.
The Mocha. The Mocha Master. So there you go. I'm going to be pure buzzing, and no one's going to be able to understand me. It's going to be great. So let's go. Ed, we've spoken a few times to podcast guests about like special abilities that they have, because it seems to be that, you know, all of us are good at specific things, and they have titled that superpowers, right? That seems to be the kind of generic term. So what is your superpower in the wedding business that you have? What's your skill?
Big question to well, massive. Possibly just trying to make people feel relaxed, because that's the whole ethos of my photography, is getting relaxed photos. And I know it sounds like such a easy answer to give, making people feel relaxed. You should be doing that as a photographer anyway. Mm-hmm. But so much of my work is candid and documentary and not contrived or posed. It just seems that unless you get people on board, you're not going to get the best out of them for the rest of the day. So the minute I walk in the door that morning, I'm working hard to make people feel relaxed. And I don't bounce in, and I'm not a massive character. I don't want people to be like, oh, that's a bit loud, a bit noisy. So I'd possibly say my superpower is just making people feel that they can just be themselves around me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's how I get the photos that I get.
Yeah. Do you think, like, you got started in sort of magazine photography, is that right?
Press photography.
Press,
so
yeah.
I went straight from school to college. I did photography at college. I did media studies there as well. And about 3 weeks before I took the final first year exams, I was doing a photography project at Newbury Racecourse. And because I didn't have the press accreditations to get on the course, I was wandering around getting all the what would have been then boring shots around the paddocks. And I just happened to be like the only photographer that was there when Willie Carson, his horse reared up and he fell off the horse, and it was like the fall that kind of ended his career. Ooh. And as it happened, I was just like, oh. Took a quick photo of it, thought nothing of it. The paramedics turned up, they put a neck brace on him. A couple of days later, I developed it in my darkroom at home. We were going off on holiday with my parents. I was only 17 at the time. Came back from a week's holiday in Cornwall after sending the picture to the local newspaper, and there it was on the front cover of the local newspaper with a check for 50 quid as well in the post. and in there was a bottom note saying, we're actually looking for a photographer. Would you be interested? And it was right place, right time, and the chance that there being a job opportunity. So from that, I got a job at the local newspaper for the first 4 years of my career. And like I said, luck, having the gumption to actually lift the camera up and take the picture.
Yeah.
I still to this day remember it so vividly. It's just being like, I'm the only photographer here. How's that possible? When it was because all the other photographers were doing their job properly. They were at the race. They were at the course waiting for the race to happen. Whereas I was thinking that I had the bum deal and I was getting the boring shots.
Yeah.
And yes, so I started off in press photography, and I did that for 12 years, working for local newspapers and then working for an agency up here in Nottingham, and then moving back down south to work for a couple more newspapers. And then I got into photography magazines around 2007, 2008. But I only did that for 3 or 4 years. It was really chained to the desk, right. And I was so used to more than a decade of photographing really interesting press stories, being out and about in the car all day, and then all of a sudden I was working for these magazines where I was only out, if I was lucky, once a week. The rest of the time just keyboard warrior. It was always photography related, but it wasn't my passion to be writing about photography. I wanted to be taking photos.
Yeah. Did you have to have that? Did you already have that skill set of being able to write about the images that you're taking? Is that part of it?
Yeah.
To me, that's almost like journaling.
Yeah, it was like journalism. Yeah, it was kind of what I'd learned. What I learned working for local newspapers was invaluable to working for magazines, and even more invaluable to now being a press photographer, because when you work for a local newspaper, you photograph everything from like golden wedding anniversaries to like horticultural shows, check presentations, all the mundane stuff. And then you could get a phone call like 11 o'clock at night. Like I photographed after Nervit train crash where 7 people sadly died, and it was just such a massive story at the time. I wasn't even working that day. You go out, take the photos, and then you're doing a massive job like that, and then the next day you're back to doing like check presentations, and it was proper roller coaster of, well, the breadth of the stories was all over the place. And kind of, we worked very closely with the journalists. We would be going out with them all the time, and I took a real interest once one of my pictures were published and my name was underneath it. I was really proud of it, and I did used to read the stories, and I probably picked up a lot of good English from that. And I did, when I went to college, I did A-level English with the photography and the media studies. I never completed any of them because when I got offered that job 2 weeks before the exams, my photography teacher at the time, he said, there's 27 students in this class. We'd be lucky if 1 or 2 of you get a job in photography. take the job. You've been offered a job, and that was the best advice I was ever given, because I stayed in that job for 4 years, and then it progressed. To working for other newspapers and learning. But when I worked at the magazines, they send you on courses to write. And when you work for magazines, well, 10, 15 years ago, magazines not so much now, you were always taught to write as if you're talking to your mate down the pub, rather than as if you're writing a novel. You need to engage people quickly within the first couple of paragraphs. And when it's a photography magazine as well, the pictures have got to do a lot of the talking as well. So it was interesting. I'm glad I've done all of those things leading up to being a wedding photographer, because they've all helped massively. Yeah.
Whenever I get someone on the podcast who's had the kind of background that you've had, I always remember this conversation that I was not having, but definitely interested in, and it was someone asking about how they how'd you get images in the newspaper, or if a newspaper is interested, how do you then charge for your images to be used? Do you know anything about that now, or
I think you mean from a wedding photographer's perspective?
Yes, so someone who doesn't, like a freelancer, I suppose role that would be. But yeah, do you know anything about that? Could you help our listeners out there who are considering?
Well, I've been out of the game so long when it comes to press photography. I was talking to a friend of mine last week who I worked with at the newspapers, and he's a press photographer. He also shoots weddings as well now. Okay. But he was asking for a bit of advice on what he could charge for this certain PR job that he was doing. I was like, it's been 10 years since I've done a PR job. If I give you advice and I tell you what to quote, I could lose you this big gig, because what I would be thinking back in 2010 terms. And it was it has changed a hell of a lot with the press photography, which is why so many of I got out at the right time. So many of my friends, probably 90% of them, have been made redundant once, if not twice, multiple times, because of newspapers either closing down, downsizing, or the whole citizen journalism, where people just, if somebody's at an event and camera phones are so good, they can get a shot just as good as somebody with a £3,000 camera and lens. Do you know what I mean? If they're in the again, going back to the right place, right time. I mean, the picture that started this all off for me wasn't going to win me any awards. I was still rough around the edges when it came to developing black and white film. It looked like it had been processed in chicken soup. It was rather than developer. It was so washed out. I was so excited about seeing the image. I probably didn't develop it for long enough when I should have been agitating the drum and things like that. I just wanted to see it. I'm a very impatient person, and that shows the mistakes that you make over the year. You build over the years. You learn from them, and it's kind of been a big learning curve for me. Like, the amount of mistakes I've made over the years is insane. It's kind of why the night before a wedding nowadays I sleep like a baby. But a few years ago, I would have the same nightmares and same horrible dreams that most people have. But yeah, when it comes to pricing up for pictures, I think it's sad to say, because I've got a lot of friends in the magazine industry as well. The magazines, people just don't buy. I can't remember the last time I bought a magazine, so I'm not saying I'm part of the problem, because if you look at my shelves with the magazines on, they're all from like 5-6 years ago. Nothing recent. It's sad that it's just become a bit of a dying breed, where you find everything online, don't you?
Yeah. That being said, there are little bits of our culture that are like almost being brought back into physical media, like vinyls vinyls and cassettes are for one. Like I'm now thoroughly into my vinyls at the moment. And
even CDs now are being seen as like vintage, and which baffles me, because I nearly chucked them all out last year, and then my dad was just like, "You've got a hell of a lot of CDs here," and I was just looking at them going, "Yeah, some of them were like 13-14 quid, but I know you could probably get like 50p at a car boot now, but just like, I'll keep hold of them just in case."
I mean, everything comes back.
I used to be really proud of my CD collection. I was like, I've got every album by that band. I'm proud I've got all of them.
Yeah,
but
even
what do you
if
do
didn't
with them?
like that certain album?
Yeah,
it was a collector's item.
You buy one of those files with like loads of different sleeves, and you get rid of all the boxes, and and then you've just got a book of discs. You're like, I'm trying to minimize. I don't have the heart to throw you all out DVDs and CDs, but you're just gonna end up in a cupboard. So sorry.
Yeah, but exactly. You're all on a little block now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to weddings a wee bit, how do you think your sort of background in press photography, if at all, shaped your wedding work?
Confidence and just mainly confidence, but having the ability to just turn up cold and walk into a room and introduce yourself, especially at weddings when you're generally like the only bloke in the room, in a room full of like bride and bridesmaids getting ready and makeup artists and hairstylists, and all of a sudden it goes quiet and they're like, it's either reality that it's happening because the photographer's there to document it, or there's a bloke in the room. It's kind of a bit of both. So the confidence that I built over the 12 years of being a press photographer was invaluable. It was, if you're not a confident person going into a wedding, you've got an uphill struggle for the rest of the day, because you can't hide behind that camera as much as you want to, or as much as you think you have to get the images. You have to go back to winning people over, and being a press photographer where some days I'd shoot 5 or 6 jobs a day, which was really quiet. And I think the most I ever shot, what was it? One day I shot 15 jobs. 15 jobs across 3 counties, and I only put about 120 miles on the clock, but I'd start at 9 and I finished at about 9 in the evening, and I did 14, and then I had to go back to the office to develop and scan and get the pictures out, so you'd be leaving at like midnight, and it's that hard working ethos of taking that into weddings. And as much as cameras and equipment and software nowadays make it a hell of a lot easier, if I had Lightroom back in my press days, I'd have been they'd have probably been sending me out to do 30 jobs a day, because they would see how easy we would have had it in the office, but it would have just been quantity over quality then. So every wedding that I do, I take something from all those years of being a press photographer, even just photographing the table arrangements and things like that. I'm not one of these photographers that will take a bride's dress away. I very rarely even do it at all now, unless I walk into a room and it looks like it's been set up by somebody, normally by a bridesmaid that's already been married and been like, you've got to get the photographer to I'll go in, I'll be like, oh great, it's there in front of the window, silhouetted in totally the wrong place where I don't want it, and then I'll move it. And the same with the shoes. If I see that they've spent a lot of money on shoes, or if they keep saying, oh, look at the shoes, do you like the shoes, check out the okay, I get it, you want a photo of the shoes, I will do something like that, but it doesn't really fit with my storytelling approach. Does that make sense? It's
totally.
I mean, I will do it if it's asked, but I won't go in going, oh, let's do a ring shot. That doesn't give me the buzz.
Yeah, I mean, we were the same. Like early days in our career, we would spend do you remember the end of the night? We'd do the ring shot, and we'd go to the couples and be like, can we get your rings? And they'd be all like, why do you want our rings? I'm like, oh, we're gonna do something cool with them. And you just sit them on the floor. You'd take stuff from the tables and make a little thing on the floor, and you use a slider and you get some nice slide shots, and Greg would do the light in the back, and I just thought, I'd rather be home. Like, what is this shot adding? It's
not adding anything to the story.
What is this doing right now? What are we doing? Like, honestly,
you should be halfway home.
Exactly, but I had to get it.
It's at different stages of your career as well. I mean, I used to, when I've been doing weddings now, I went, was it 2012? Yeah, this is my 10th or 11th year of only doing weddings. I mean, I shot my first wedding back in 1997, 98, when I was 19 years old, on like 5 rolls of film, and I still really remember that. But the 10, 11 years that I've been shooting it now, when I started, I couldn't leave a wedding because I was just so nervous that I hadn't got everything. And you're looking around and everyone's just plastered.
Yeah.
You know that you've got the best shots, but at the same time, it's that anxiety of having to go up to the couple and say, I used to go up and say, I'm going now. Is that okay? It's like, sometimes now I don't even say goodbye to the couples because if I can see they're having a whale of a time on the dance floor, I've put my shift in. I've done the hours, or I've gone above and beyond the hours a lot of the time. The majority of the time, actually. If I can see them having fun, I'm not going up for the awkward, sweaty hug and then 15, 20 minutes of me pulling away going, come on, I've got a premiere in to get back to her.
Yeah,
It's funny how it's changed over the years. But yeah, the first few years I was kind of like, is that okay? And as soon as you plant that seed to somebody that's never got married before, never hired a photographer to stalk them for the day, they'll completely sober up and they'll be like, oh, actually, can you just do this group photo? So I'll put my kit away. Why did I ask that question? And then you got to get all your kit out just to take one crappy group photo that will end the gallery on a bad note unless you pull it forward an hour.
Yeah. But we still say the goodbye. But it's always one thing that's on my mind. Just
I do normally. It's only if a couple haven't been dancing, and then I can just see that they're really getting into it.
Yeah.
And I'm like an hour past the time that I should have gone home. I'll be like, if I say goodbye, they're going to want to get me wasted. I'm going to be sleeping in the car at this rate. So I just feel like just disappear into the background. Yeah.
So what got you? I mean, obviously you said you shot your first wedding years ago, but what made you take that kind of career leap into doing weddings from a magazine, newspaper, editorial world?
Possibly just because I could see, I don't know how I came across them, because just a few American photographers were shooting weddings, and Australian photographers were shooting in a lot more relaxed style, and it kind of excited me a bit because I was just like, I know there was good money in weddings. There's not great money in photojournalism. I did it for 12 years, and if anything, it got to a point where after 5 or 6 years, I had to take a pay cut when I moved up here, up to the Midlands. Yeah. And then when I moved back down south, I got a couple of grand more for being a press photographer. But over a year, it's minimal, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I would fit in 3 or 4 weddings during the summer, because I used to do Premiership football photography. I did that for 4 years as well. So when I did that during the summer months, you haven't got any work, so you need to get something. And what happens in summers? Weddings. So when I was doing the Premiership football, it got to the summer and I did a few weddings, but I would always say to the couples, I will do it. I'll do it at this price, but you've got to put full trust in me that I'll shoot it in my way, and it'll be very relaxed. It won't be traditional. It won't be like anything you've seen. And they'll be like, oh, okay, well, can you give us an example? And then if you haven't done a wedding like that, they're putting a lot of trust in you. So I would then show them my press photography portfolio, and they'd be like blown away by some of the celebrities that would be in there. Like, well, if he shot the Queen, if he's shot Joan Collins, if he's done this, if he's at Premiership football matches, he must be pretty good. Let's trust him. Yeah. Plus, he's not charging the earth. I was charging like 500 quid for the first year, like most people should or do. And you're learning, aren't you? So I'd do that, and then after I've done a couple of weddings, and I'm like, I've earned what I would earn in a month as a press photographer. And then the business side of you kicks in. I had just got a mortgage at the time. I needed reliable income. So I hate to say it did come down to the money, but at the time it did. It's really good money.
Nothing wrong with that.
It kind of annoys me when people shirt away from it and they just say, "Oh, I'm so passionate about it." And I was like, bollocks! There's no way that you went to school and when you saw the careers advisor, you said, "I want to be a wedding photographer." We didn't. We all wanted to be Premiership footballers, but some of us find out that we're only good at one thing, and my one thing was taking photos. And then when I found that there was a good bit of money to be made doing something that I really enjoyed, and at the beginning, I didn't feel like it was. I don't feel like shooting weddings now is like work, because I put the hard work in on a personal level, making people feel relaxed. Sometimes people look at me and they think, "Oh God, he hasn't taken a picture for 2 minutes." 2 minutes is nothing in a whole day, is it? I'm making your guests feel relaxed because I can spot a couple of people that I've not photographed and they look really awkward, and then as soon as they're relaxed, they'll be all right with me when I do the next circuit and try and get photos.
And then earlier on in your career, you won the Professional Photographer of the Year award, which was
within the first year of going full time with I had 12 weddings. When I was at Practical Photography magazine, I was taking wedding bookings. And I put an advert on Facebook saying that I'm going to take on 5 weddings at £500. Then the price goes up to £995. That advert didn't even run its course. I got those 5 bookings. That's back in the days when Facebook ads worked for me.
Yes,
and and it was all so fresh and new, and it was great because once those 5 bookings had gone, I did say to the other couples, but it's still $995. It's still a hell of a lot cheaper than the other photographers you've been looking at. So I quickly built up a year's worth of bookings just from that advert and just from doing 1 or 2 weddings at dirt cheap. You
mentioned earlier there that at the very start it was hard to convince people to trust your style, and obviously I'm sure your style's evolved over the years, but there's still a core there that it's your eye that's capturing these images, or the camera.
Your eye.
We're not AI yet.
That is a superpower and a half.
I'll be out of this game by then.
How would you describe yourself nowadays? Like, obviously it's sort of documentary wedding with like a editorial feel, but how do you describe it to your couples nowadays?
Well, there's midway through this year when I was having Zoom calls with couples, and I don't know why I was saying this, possibly because I consume a lot of crap off of Instagram far too much. I follow far too many people, and the word editorial just kept popping up, and I just thought, I suppose my style's editorial because it's got that stylized. People book me and they only want 10 minutes of portraits, but they want really good stylish portraits. And I started using that term earlier this year, and only over the last couple of weeks have I taken it off my website because I would be preferred to. I know documentary is a word that everyone uses, and most couples don't understand what it means. So in my approach, I've even got a blog post about what is a documentary wedding photographer, and I'm still not sure if couples read that and they're any wiser at the end of it. Do you know what I mean? It's you can explain it to you blue in the face, but unless you've got the pictures to go with it, to say, look, this isn't contrived, this isn't fake, this isn't set up, so that's what documentary is. People have got to have a bit of common sense about. Do you know what I mean? It's all about educating people, but at the same time, why does there have to be a label on everything? A lot of the time, I don't like having to be so locked into my brand and locked into a style. So it's kind of why on my homepage, I think it's on my homepage. I've not looked at my website for a few weeks. It's one of those things where I say, am I the right photographer for you? Have a look at this 3-minute slideshow and you decide. So if somebody can't decide from looking at a slideshow of like 100 and 150 images, if I want them to be blown away by image 10 and locked on and invested and be like, we need this guy. I don't want them to get to the end and be like, oh, should we contact him? Oh, well, his price is on there, so we know how much he charges. And then if they contact me, great. If they don't, that's fine with me. They can. There's 1,000,001 other photographers they can choose, and those photographers might be better at describing their style and labeling themselves. But I find it very hard putting I get really awkward about talking about it, as you can probably tell. But it's why I don't do very many wedding fairs anymore. I didn't do any last year. I think I did one the previous year, but that was only because it should have been in 2020, and then it got rolled over because of COVID. I remember doing that one and setting up for it, and I used to do like 5 or 6 a year, like 5 or 6 years ago, and I'll be really confident at them. But that first one back after COVID, I was as nervous as hell, and it wasn't even the wedding; it was the wedding fair, because you go into salesman approach, and I'm not a salesman. I'd rather leave the stand with the big images, like 6 or 9 images. All of them, apart from one, would be a portrait. All the pictures. I'd have I've got a picture of a bride being attacked by her dog just as she walked down the aisle, and it's a really lovely shot. I've got a picture of a wedding guest having a fag leaning out of a bathroom window in London onto the roof, and that's a picture that stops people walking past my stand, and they're like, "Oh, that's at a wedding, is it?" And it's because I've gone out of the comfort zone and put such an unwedding photo on a wedding fair thing that makes you stand out from all the other people at that wedding fair.
It's a tricky question, the sort of describe your style, because you kind of have to have the words on your website to get that documentary. People are maybe Googling that for the SEO, but the slideshow like idea, it works so much better, because if somebody can watch that and it connects with them, then that means
that's all
they like your style then.
I use the word connection more than a documentary or anything else. I just say, if you've got a connection with my work, brilliant. I almost like it when people say, we felt a connection, we don't know why. I love that more when somebody can't tell me why they love the pictures. Or I love it when they say, we feel like we were at that wedding, which is weird because they're complete strangers. And then you just reassure that couple that are inquiring, well, they were all strangers to me until the day. I'd only done a Zoom call when they booked me. Sometimes they don't even do the Zoom call. And you turn up and you have to work really hard on those weddings.
Well, the one thing I did notice about your website is the fact, like, you've talked about how
simple.
You don't, but you mentioned that you don't like calling you don't like labels, but when you go to your website and you look at your tab, the words that Google puts up, the metadata of the tab, it says
the ones I put on there about 12 years ago.
It says relaxed and fun, chilled out wedding photographer. It doesn't mention anything about the actual photography style. It mentions what the couple are going to be feeling, like the emotions of it. And I think that's
what I am.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good thing to do, because honestly,
I've not changed that. I've not changed that since I set that up 12 years ago. I promise you. That's just because I can't be asked. I can't. You change so many things to work with the algorithm, and then within 2 or 3 years' time, the algorithm goes back to what it started with. So I don't overthink anything like that, but it's interesting to hear you say that.
Because I think these nebulous terms, they've been around. Well, I feel like they've, maybe because I wasn't focusing a lot on photography like earlier on, because we're just filmmakers, but like you'd have people describing, like, selling films as HD, cinematic. What were the other random terms
that technical
that don't mean, they just mean fuck all. Like, honestly, these things. And now I'm noticing that photographers are now stealing I'm a cinematic photographer. I'm like, no, don't. We made that mistake like 10 years ago. Don't do that.
I know on my approach thing, I say that I've got a cinematic, edgy style, and that's only because I heard so many couples come back to me and they just say, "Oh, we love it. It's got like a cinematic film." Oh, what was that? And I'm supposed to be sealing the deal, and I'm taking notes off what they're saying. And you're like, get back in the game. You got to remember, they've not booked you yet, Ed. So you kind of, but you're hearing these buzzwords, and you're thinking, well, if people that haven't even booked you yet, couples that haven't got married, are seeing this and they're thinking it, you got to feed off them to burst that back into your website, because I want my website to be, it's the same template it was 10, 12 years ago when I set it up. All that's changed is the images, the logo, and occasionally I'll change the wording, or I'll update the images every couple of years. But other than that, it's very simple, going back to my magazine days, I want it to look like a magazine online.
Yeah.
And I want it to be dead simple. I'm sure there will come a time where it will look dated, and I will have to think I've either got to move with the times and update it. But then if I updated it and it didn't show off my personality, I wouldn't be able to hit live on it, because I would be like, these couples are buying into me as well on the day. And going back to them having a connection, the connection's got to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like your simple approach to your website, because it's like bang an image, a little bit of text, and then there's a slideshow, which is just one. It just keeps people on your page, so that's even better for like audience retention. Like Google loves that shit, by the way. And then you just scroll down. There's a little bit of text, and then boosh, you've got the about me, your approach, your like everything that couples need to know, and then after that, reviews.
Yeah,
like it's great.
It loads fast.
It does, and then there's like tons of images after that. So I can just, I've not clicked anything. I can just like scroll and scroll and scroll. Like the more clicks you add to your website, the clunkier it feels. So it's quite nice to just be able to get like a really good sense of who you are, what your work is, and what it looks like. So I don't know. I like the simple approach. And I think sometimes people make websites a little bit too cool looking that it becomes
complicate it and they change it too much. I follow, because I do wedding photography workshops, or at least I did before COVID. Now I do one-to-one tuition, but I follow a lot of photographers on Instagram, and there's a couple of photographers I've seen. They've changed their website at least twice since COVID, and they're not doing it themselves. Because they're doing it, and then they're tagging the web designer that they got on board. And I'm like, well, they don't look cheap. That's like, you've spent a lot of money on somebody. And I'm not saying that we need to be doing it all, but because I'm very hands-on, I am a bit of a control freak when it comes to my images. It's one of those things where if you just change things far too much, because some couples will book you for their wedding in 2 years' time. If they go back to your website 6-7 months down the line and you've changed your website completely twice, they'll be like, oh, who are we getting turning up? Are we getting the one that we booked? It's kind of like when I went, possibly when I shot with you, I was still back on Nikon, but then
you were.
I went over to Fuji for two years, and my photography massively changed, and it was at the forefront of my mind at every single wedding. Oh God, are these couples getting the same pictures? They're not. They didn't have the depth of field. They were slightly wider, because I went all small, and I was getting in a lot closer. Yeah. And no couple ever brought it up. No couple ever complained. No couple ever said, oh my God, these pictures look completely different to what we bought into. But from a creative person's perspective, I was kind of just like, I was stressing about it. So I was shooting with one Nikon and 2 Fujis. And so when we were doing the portraits or the really, really important shots like the confetti or anything I couldn't shoot twice, I asked them to do it again. I was shooting with what I knew was really reliable and nailing it. But I went over to Sony in 2019, and I've just stuck with that ever since. But I use Fuji's for my personal life, for personal projects.
It's like, at the end of the day, as we just mentioned, they're buying into you and your sort of vision. So, the technical aspects of, that's a slightly different focal length doesn't make a difference to the couple. But how do you sort of balance that? Your artistic vision and the couple's expectations? Like, do you pay much attention to that?
The fact that I'm struggling to answer probably means no. I'm very simple. I have a very simple approach, and it is literally going back to the press days of, you see it, you shoot it. Don't let that moment pass. Even nowadays, if I miss a shot, I'll beat myself up about it on the 3-hour drive home. I'll be really hard on myself. But not being big-headed, I very rarely miss a shot nowadays, because of all the shots in the early years, where I was doing something irrelevant, like photographing the cake for the 30th time, when something really cool happened behind me, and then I turned around, the moment's gone.
Yeah.
Whereas now you kind of see a day evolving and happening. You can almost like tell when something is going to happen, can't you, at a wedding after a certain amount of years. But from a technical perspective, I've got some of the most expensive lenses you can get, and I also own the cheapest ones that you can get as well. Kit's irrelevant, but the camera body to me has to be the most reliable, and I've found with the Sonys they've just not let me down, whereas sadly the Nikons, I was on Nikon for 14 years, and it just got to a point where I had the D600 or the 600, then the 610s, and the 610s had the oil on the shutter issue, so all three of them got recalled. And I remember having 2 weddings the following weekend. Luckily, Nikon sent me out replacements so I could use them, but you just get a bit hacked off over time. And Nikon were very slow on the go into mirrorless. So I kind of got a bit impatient with that. Yeah, that's why I went over to Fuji. Then I had a few XT2s, the Fujis, and one of them locked up when I was doing a confetti shot at a wedding, and that was enough to put me off that camera. Just it locking up that once, and it had constant firmware issues. And then a mate of mine, funnily enough, at the Fuji workshop down in Bath, he had just gone over to Sony. He said, I'll swing by your studio and you can have a look at it. He said, once you've tried this, you won't go back. And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. And then he was just like walking around the studio and it was just locking onto his eye. Yeah. And I was like, shit, we got no excuse of not getting the shot now. But I would much prefer that reliability, and couples know that you're getting, well, couples don't know that, but couples that are into photography, which I seem to attract a lot of couples at the end of the day, like the bride or groom will come up and say, oh, why are you using the 50mm 1.2? And you're like, oh, hang on. And then you find out they're a really good photographer and you're like, oh crap, I should have done a bit of homework on this couple.
We've got some tech questions kind of later on in the podcast, but I'm going to do a little bit of what do you call it? An ad? It's not an ad. It's us whoring myself out to the world of money and plugging this podcast, because I'm a podcast money whore. Anyway, if you enjoyed this conversation and you want more content like it, you can support us on YouTube at youtube.com/@perspective by Cinemate. Support us on YouTube, even if you don't even listen to it. Maybe you just want to be like, oh, I wonder what these guys look like. And then you'll be like, holy shit, I thought the guy who always speaks is the guy on the left. Like, I know. I sound like I should be Greg, but I'm not. So there you go. Anyway, Greg, I'm going to jump to all the technical questions since we're already talking tech. But before we do, so Ed, we actually have just come back from Sky, more or less, and we were doing an adventure session with a couple just video, and we thought, you know what, we've got a good camera for stills. Since we're the only ones there, let's take a couple of images just on the side. And we were having a fucking great time. A great time. And you were talking about cameras just like locking onto the eye. Man, like...
We're Sony as well.
We're Sony as well. What was the camera? Cool. Sony
A7S4 is the one we used for doing some stills,
And we're shooting with a 35, and it was just locked onto that eye and just kept it. I was so impressed. Like, even when the eyes were like miles away, it could got them. So
I've got no excuse.
No excuse. Of course, I'm still an idiot, so I actually I made a technical error.
Are you throwing yourself under the bus here?
I'm going to throw myself under the bus. I shot on crop mode because I'm an idiot. Okay. So, but it's funny because
I had set up all the camera and all the buttons and stuff ages ago. Barely used it for stills, just as a backup video camera. Simon grabbed it to use for stills. Accidentally hit the button that I've got set to punch into crop mode if we ever wanted to.
Yeah.
So you went to 50mm then, about.
Basically, yeah.
The thing is, I did notice.
Yeah.
I noticed instantly because I always shoot with 35, but because I was like, in an environment which I've never shot. Like, I'd never been out on the Kerrang shooting images. I didn't really know what to expect. I had the sense that I was shooting way too tight, but I was pushing buttons and it wasn't changing, and things were happening, and I just thought, fuck it, I'll leave it. And
on the walk back to the car, it was like, you sure that's a 35 on that camera? I was like, yeah, it's definitely 35. And then got back in the car and I was like, pressed a few buttons. I was like, that explains it.
Yeah,
amateur hour.
Did you see in the LCD? Did you see the crop icon as well?
As soon as I pressed it off, I was like, I should have noticed that wee thing.
I set custom. I think it's custom button 1 on the top next to the video record button, because I have 3 A7 IV.
Oh yeah.
And next to the video record button, I set that to crop mode, so it turns my 85 into like is it a 135?
135, yeah.
Yeah, and because it's an A7 IV, it's loads of megapixels. Even in crop mode, it's still over 20 megapixels. So if I've got a long aisle, I'll set it off in crop mode and then press it again to go to 85, and then I'll go to my main camera, which is my 35mm GM lens, and then I'll just pretty much shoot on that. I very, very rarely lock into turning 35 to 50, which is what you do, because 50mm just the amount of money I've spent over the years trying to love a 50mm, and I even own the 50mm 1.2. I had it for the last 18 months, one of the most expensive Sony lenses. I took some fantastic images on it, but it's a beast of a lens. I find it too intimidating when you get it into people's faces, and I just didn't gel with that focal length. So I probably would, if I had accidentally done what you did, I would have also been like, this doesn't seem like what I see in real life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, sometimes I think a 50mm would probably be a great lens if you shoot vertical, which is something that we just don't do as video people. Although
most of the stuff that I put up on Instagram over the last 18 months have been shot with that 50mm. Because I've shot it like that. But if I take a nice 35mm landscape shot of a couple walking towards me and it's just fluff on the outside, I can crop that in for Instagram, and it transforms that into ideally a 50mm, doesn't it? Because you're cropping into the middle bit, and because it's the A7 IV, it's more than enough megapixels.
So Greg was editing in the car the images, because it's quite exciting if you don't take photographs all the time, just to see what you get. And obviously realizing I had made the mistake, I was like, Greg, just chuck it in the AI software and generate
expand the frame.
Expand the frame. And did it work?
It was very close. Like, it worked. It was a shot of the top of the mountains and the couple, and we had a wider shot when we'd ran back and taken it from wider. Then we had the tighter one, so I expanded the tighter one, and you can tell it's not how the mountains look in real life, but it would have looked passable. Like, if we didn't have anything to compare it to, it's so crazy how good it is.
Yeah, it's insane. It's not something that I do, or I've got any ambition to go down, but it is crazy when you see more and more photographers are putting up stuff. And I swear, I think some of them are shooting themselves in the foot, because they're showing to their couples what is possible if you miss a shot or if you cock up. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way about the generative fill and all that. It's not for me. That's as far as I go on the topic. Yeah. Well, it's a weird one, and because I think it's not perfected yet, that's why it doesn't interest me.
Well, I keep looking at photographs, and I'm starting to get really tired of the perfectionism in this in the industry that's happening right now. Obviously, due to technology, and like, I get it. Like, take some people out of the background. There's the planner. Like, get rid of the planner. But sometimes you're getting rid of some of the character that makes the image memorable.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
funny you saying about the wedding planner. I did a wedding last year, and a wedding planner was just in the background of so many photos. I even noticed it on the day. I was just like cursing as I was taking the photo. I was like, for Christ's sake, she doesn't need her dress fluffing out now. It's like, this is her moment with her dad. Her dad's in tears.
Yeah.
I want the shot of this. But then I later find out later in the day, and they were just like, oh, she's been wonderful, the wedding planner. Oh, okay. So then when you put the gallery together, you've got to include the wedding planner, because that bride loved her. She was just like, she was a huge, like you said, character, part of the day. And it's I could have easily paid somebody to like remove the wedding planner from all of it. There's no way I would have learned how to do it. I'm not, because I'm one of those people that if I learn how to do something, I'll overdo it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, I've invested into learning how to do this. So, and I'll be up to like 4 a.m. just getting rid of people, getting rid of like fire hydrant signs and things like that. But my pictures are edgy, they're raw, they're how you remember the day. And if you some people, I think it was an American photographer on Instagram last week, they did a pre-wedding shoot in New York, and they removed all the bubble gum and all the chewing gum
Oh
marks
no!
on a pavement.
New York is famously dirty. You can't take away the character of the city.
Exactly.
God.
I looked at that and I just like, that's not the New York I know. It's just that looks far too clean and that far too perfect, whatever perfect is.
It's really funny because for people who like, we've been kind of quiet on the podcast recently. I mean, we haven't. We've been working like dogs, but we're doing the Photography Thrive episodes right now, where we speak to, we're speaking to 6 people and then Lisa, and we've been speaking to people like John Dolan and well, a whole host of people, and we're getting in Ian Weldon next Friday, and like you look at their images and they're so like, they just lean heavily into putting up these images that probably wouldn't make a gallery, or they're out of focus, or they're blurry, or it's like somebody's smoking, like things that people probably don't put in a wedding gallery, or they want to take out of a wedding gallery. And I'm really loving it right now. This kind of like imperfect wedding.
Oh, Ian Weldon is he's just brilliant at that. Yeah, I went down to Bristol to see his gallery a couple of years ago at the Martin Parr Foundation.
Oh yeah, you've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, I went down there, just went to see my dad, and then just popped along to have a look. And I was the only one in the whole gallery. It was just, and the pictures were there, and they're all shot on his Fuji X Pro 2 with the 18mm, which is like the most underrated Fuji lens because of all its flaws. But I like the imperfections of it. I've got it sat over there. I've bought and sold it 2 or 3 times because every time I've got rid of it, I missed it. But yeah, his work is, I love it, and I just love how he kind of winds people up because he's like, well, I can shoot a wedding on a camera phone. You don't believe me? I've done it. And then you can see, he got sponsored, didn't he, by was it I can't remember. I can't pronounce them.
Huawei? Is that,
Huawei?
I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think it was them to photograph a wedding on his phone, and he did such a good job of it to prove that it's a person pressing the button and what's up here rather than the camera. But I like all what he captures the soul of a wedding, doesn't he? He just
definitely. Yeah,
you can see him. Just in my head, I've met him actually. He was 2 years ago. I did the Manchester Marathon, and at the start line, when I was so nervous, I was just going off, and he was there taking pictures. and as I ran by, I went, Ian, as if he was a mate, and he was going to say, "Oh, hi, Ed." He didn't. He put his camera down. He just looked at me, and I was just. For the first 2 miles of the marathon, I was just thinking, "Oh, you plum!" He's going to think, "Who was that?" And you could see he was probably also thinking, "Shit, should I have photographed him?" Because he had been commissioned to photograph it for a clothing company. I later found out, but yeah, that was hilarious.
A proper fanboy moment, was it?
It was. I think I even blushed, and I was like that after I went past him.
We've all done that kind of stuff.
I'd like to think that for the next 5 or 6 hours he was thinking, "Oh God, who was that?
Should I this random guy?
Did I know that?
Yeah.
He'll be like,
was that the person I should have been photographing?
We'll need to ask
thousands of people.
oh yeah, we'll definitely ask him. In fact, I kind of hoping. Oh no, because this episode won't be posted by the time he comes on. But I have this image of his head. Like, what are these guys on the podcast about? Let's have a look. Bloody hell, that's that guy. That's that guy from the Run. Oh no.
Yeah, it'll be like I can sleep at night now knowing that it wasn't somebody important.
All right, let's get back on topic. I know that you are more of a natural light photographer, right? Or you do a lot of natural light work. What's your approach to like challenging situations in regards to like different styles of light that you get at a wedding? Like, do you have an approach?
Yeah, I do, because the last I shot my last wedding of the year 4 weeks ago, and it was at Headingham Castle down in Essex, and I put a picture of the castle up, not dissimilar to the castle where we shot at, actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But very far apart from each other. I put a picture up of it on Instagram because as always I turned up hours and hours early, put it up, and then I just put last wedding of the year, Instagram story, put phone away for the rest of the day, and then I just felt it pinging. I was just like, oh God, what's that? And then 3 different photographers all sent me private messages, and they were just like, oh, good luck, mate. That's the darkest venue in the country. The ceremony room's so dark. And then I went up to the top of the castle. Yeah, where you go in, but all the shutters are open. So I go in there and I'm like blinded by how bright it is. And I'm like, what? All these photographers moaning about. And before I replied to them, I started talking to the wedding coordinator, and she said, just to let you know, we put the candles on and we close all the shutters. I was like, yeah, good one. And I was just like, but look, the light's flooding in. And she said, yeah, but wait till you see. I said, yeah, it probably looks good through the eyes once your eyes have adjusted to it. Yeah. And it really was the darkest ceremony room I've ever shot in. But I just had to think outside the box, because I won't use off-camera flash because it kills the atmosphere. I don't like using flash other than direct flash on the dance floor. Yeah. Right. For those kind of Vogue-looking portraits, and for the shutter drag, for the swirly lines and all that, tenth of a second shots. So I just had to think, well, I've got the 20mm 1.8. I know that I can handhold, as I get older, the less, but I know that I can handhold to about a 30th of a second with the 20mm 1.8. Oh yeah. And luckily the registrars were really cool. They said, go wherever you need to, because we know how much of a challenge this place is for photographers. Because
that's cool.
Yeah, because they've had photographers before that have shot it with a flash and they've ruined the ceremony because they've got in the way.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Well, even with a flash, one flash on camera at that venue, you're going to be getting harsh shadows, and it's going to be looking very, unless the 60s, 70s vibe is what you're after. So I just shot it. I didn't panic about it. I could have 5-6 years ago, getting messages like that shortly before you shoot a ceremony, I'd have shit a brick. I'd have been like, oh crap, if these guys have struggled, how am I going to get through this? But you just have to see it as a challenge, like you just said, and be like, how can I get around this? Because ceremonies go in a blink of an eye nowadays, don't they? Yeah. Unless if they're like humanist, or if they're like registrars, they just seem to go so. Sometimes a ceremony finishes and I'm like, did I take enough photos? Because I don't want it to be, I use mechanical shutter, I don't use silent shutter. I'm old school. I like to hear when I'm taking a photo, and I like people knowing when I am working. Yeah. It's weird like that.
I mean, I've obviously I've gone onto the website and had a look at that room, and you can, I mean, it's dark. Well, what a strange thing. Just wait till you see this place when we take away the light.
Yeah, but to them, they don't know the ins and outs of the photography. They're like, oh, it looks romantic and candlelit, and this is a wedding look. It's romantic. But
I get it. Yeah.
I totally got it from their perspective, because they probably have a lot of weddings there. And when it was cozy and intimate, and it was, you can't see my images, but it was a really sunny day, really blue skies, really nice. So I'd come in from the bright into a dark, and I was just like, oh my God, it's really, really done.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, only 2 hours previous to that, before doing bridal prep, I'd been up there when all the shutters were open, and I got some lovely light, the light's beaming in, like it's making that, it's really beautiful that you can black and white, color, it's fine. But then when it came to, changing the subject and go back to technicality a bit, not AI, but the new denoise function on Lightroom is unbelievable. It's absolutely amazing. It takes a few minutes, and you have to do it per image. You can't bulk do it, not that I know of. And I think it outputs the image as a TIFF, but it just removes all the noise. It doesn't make it too glazy. It doesn't make it plasticky. But it saved me on that wedding. It really did.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
Let's change gears a little bit.
Yeah,
let's go back up. We'll go back up to the notes. One thing I really love talking about is pricing and how you essentially structure the sales part of your business. So can you run us through what you offer your clients and your starting price, and then how you structure your pricing?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about the one thing I hate talking about, money.
Everyone hates talking about money. That's why I love to ask it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's why my price is on my website. I sell the way that I like to buy. I like to know the price up front. I don't mind when people have or companies or businesses have prices. If you're paying for a service, if it has prices from and there's a baseline, I don't mind that. I've even been known this year to take my prices off occasionally when I've been really busy and I haven't had the time to reply to inquiries. I've just gone back to that, and then I found out that I've actually got more inquiries because I've put a lower price because it's prices from. But that was when I used to do like coming out of COVID, 4-hour, 8-hour, 12-hour packages. I just like being upfront and honest about price. This is my price, whether you're getting married 5 miles down the road or 250 miles down the road. This is how much it costs because you're getting this much of me for the whole day. I'm not taking anything on that day. This year I only did one back-to-back wedding. Not out of choice, it just happened to work out like that. It couldn't have worked out any better. So I shot 20 weddings this year because of my pricing structure. I like to keep it just under the VAT threshold.
Oh yeah.
I'm a limited company, so I don't want to go over the VAT threshold. And I also don't want to be working every weekend, if truth be told. It's last year I shot 50 weddings. I think 23 of them were still COVID postponements. Right. The year before that, I shot 50 weddings just in the last 6 months. Yeah, in 2021, I shot 50 weddings just between June and December. And like this year, I've got no weddings for. My last wedding was 4 weeks ago, and I've got no weddings for 5 months, and I'm cool with that. I'm happy with that.
Sounds great to me.
I've never felt guilty about having time off because I work so bloody hard during the summer. This industry, we work insanely hard during the summer. We need to recover during the winter, and I love having the time off, and that's kind of why I price myself to what I think I'm worth. the years of experience, not just as a wedding photographer, but all those years of experience that I picked up being paid poorly as a press photographer, it would be insane now at 45 to just be like, oh, I love the job so much. No, I'll do it for practically nothing. No, you charge what you're worth, and don't take on too much. 6 or 7 years ago, I would be saying yes to everything. When you guys approached me about doing the podcast, it didn't go through my mind, because I've got I'm off at the moment in my head. All this time, the winter months, are marketing, trying to fill next year's diary, trying to start on 2025, and just chilling out, isn't it? I don't understand why people have to be working all the time, but at the same time, it's a bit hypocritical, because I have had years where the most I've done is 57, and but my accountant at the time was just like, "That's great that you've done that, but you're not charging enough. If you're so run down, and everyone's saying how great what you're putting out is, you need to put your price up." And it kind of just got to the point where around 2016, I made a massive jump from £1,500 to 2.5.
Right.
I made £1,000 jump to 2.5.
Yeah.
And then what the price that I'm at now, which is 3.5 for a full day, that was a jump from 2.5 to 3.5. But I had been 2.5 for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I go to all these weddings, and sometimes I'm the cheapest thing at the wedding, and sometimes I'm the most expensive thing at the wedding.
Yeah.
Sometimes couples change their date so that I can be their photographer.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I turn up and I've not even done a Zoom call with them, because photos are just a tick box to them.
Yeah.
And this year, and I'm not just saying it because it's this year, has been the best for my interactions with couples, me coming away from every wedding just being like, I bloody love today. It was really, really good. I wish I could photograph them every weekend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I love coming away from weddings and being buzzed, be like, I'm kind of sad I'm going.
But that's how it should be. If you're coming away from weddings and you'll be like, oh God, they were knobs. Do you know, that's not their fault. It's you booked them. They booked you because what they've seen on your website. They booked you because what you promised them, what you said to them, and it's kind of why I'm honest, and I put as much of my character on my website to try and attract people that I enjoy spending the day with. And this year's just been immense for coming away from weddings and feeling like that.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here. Sorry. I do want to talk a little bit about your opinions here, because I see for the years that we've been doing this podcast, I think the general message that we've been putting out there is put up your prices. We're definitely a proponent of charge more, charge what you're worth.
Yeah.
But charging what you're worth is something that I don't think many people think about, and they just put up the prices. And I feel like this year or next year, I think I've seen a lot of conversations where people are struggling to book clients, or they're struggling with keeping the clients. And I think that they have forgotten that with putting up your prices, you need to be offering a service that is worthy of that price. What's your thoughts on that? Since you've had that huge, massive price jump, are you doing anything more, or were you undervaluing yourself before, or what's your thoughts there?
My turning point was a wedding that I did in Cornwall back in, blimey, what year did you say we shot together? Was it 2016?
2015, I believe.
2015. It was possibly a couple of years after that. I did a wedding in Cornwall, and I remember just talking to, I think it was the uncle of the bride. He keen photographer, and he was just chatting to me, and then he said, somebody said you've come from the Midlands, and I said, oh yeah, I've come from Nottinghamshire, and he went, what? And this was just beyond him. The couple, they said, so how do you know the couple? Have you met them before? I went, no. And he goes, well, you're either very good or very cheap. And that for the rest of the day, that was on my mind. I was just like, I am doing this, and I'm hardly making any profit. I'm all the way down in Cornwall. I did like the 10-hour. It was horrific traffic. It took me 10 hours to get there. I didn't factor in the 2 nights accommodation into the pricing because
woofed. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is what I do now, and which is what I did even at $2,500. If the wedding was up in Scotland, I would charge a supplement. I would never call Scotland a destination wedding. Then, do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's a different story.
Do you do it now? I'm intrigued.
Well, do I class Scotland as a
destination? You said you didn't then. Do you do it now? It's such a romantic destination.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? It's like that year that, well, not even that year, but everyone wanted to get a wedding in Iceland, didn't they? And I think I was the only photographer that didn't, because I remember shooting a wedding the year that when they had that volcano erupted and so many flights were cancelled, and I was doing a wedding, and there should have been lots of guests at it, and they couldn't come because that volcano erupted. And that's just destination weddings to me. I've not shot any since 2019, since before COVID. I shot 3 that year, and they were all really, really brilliant weddings. But destination weddings, I could take or leave them. They're so much hard work.
They are so much hard work. Yeah.
So much hard work, and you're away for a week, and you could have shot 3 weddings on your doorstep and earn twice as much money. So I don't see the glamour in all that. I do if you're a lot younger and you haven't got responsibilities.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think it's because I haven't shot a Scotland wedding since. I did one a couple of years ago. They postponed. They originally wanted me. I couldn't shoot it, so I recommended somebody. Then COVID happened, and then they came back to me because the person I recommended couldn't do their new day. And they were just like, "This couldn't have worked out any better. We're getting the original photographer." And I think at the time, because they were just lovely, really, really nice couple, I just said, "Just give me an extra 250 quid, and I'll call that the supplement." So nice. I would probably, I nearly said between me and you guys, just on the podcast, just between me and everyone that's watching this, I probably would with a Scotland wedding if it fitted into my diary, and it wasn't like a ridiculously peak date. I would just say it's a supplement on top of the $3,500 rather than it being the destination price. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I heard something very similar from someone years ago, and it was again something that made me think, like, why? Yeah, what was that? It's like, what was it? It was something along the lines of, it was either you're too shit to be in your local market, so you're going abroad, or like I don't know what. I can't actually remember what it was. But it made me think, like, we've done destination weddings. They're hard work. They're good on the back end, but
I get so stressed. I mean, I say every. I've only shot on my 2 hands. I could say I think I've shot 8-9 destination weddings, and the last destination wedding I did was in Vegas, and it was just an elopement, and I got a phone call on Christmas Eve back in 2018, and I was nearly going to stop for Christmas, and they were just like, "Oh, we get married in 4 weeks' time. Are you available?" And I was like, "A January wedding? Oh, blimey, I haven't done one of them." Like, it's in Vegas, and I was like, "Yes, I'm free." and they just said, "We want you to come out for 4 days and like document the day before the wedding. It's just us." And it was perfect. It was brilliant. It didn't feel like work. But I've done some massive weddings in like Lake Como, Sicily, south of France, like 3-day weddings. And and you're just running on adrenaline, lack of sleep because you're slightly nervous, lack of sleep because you've got to the hire car company, and things don't pan out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of why, I mean, I know some UK photographers that won't do London weddings because they stress them out. Well, luckily, when I was a Premiership football photographer, all my football matches were in central London or up north, so I got all that out of my system of being nervous about driving around city centres and parking up in city centres and walking around with 20 grand's worth of kit on your back out then. So I think nothing of doing a London wedding now, or an Edinburgh wedding I did in the middle of COVID. I did that, and just you think nothing of it. If anything, it's fresh backdrops, isn't it? So
and there is something to be said with the creativity that you can be your maximum creativity level when you're in a city, because there's so many nooks and crannies and the lights coming through weird alleys and windows and reflections.
London especially,
I love all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that alone in the sky, like, it was torrential. Like, I had to actually dry. I had to empty the bags and dry. There was no dry bit in the bag. And I came off that shoot buzzing, totally drenched through, soaked right through. But I was buzzing, and I just thought, I'm living my best life here. I was so on a high.
Yeah, it's when I see weddings from Glencoe, because I love Glencoe. I used to go there as a kid a lot.
Yeah.
And I did a micro wedding during COVID, and the couple booked me. And when I turned up, I said, so did you get married a few weeks ago? And the couple were just like, oh yeah, literally 5 days ago. And our photographer's got the pictures back to us already, and we're going to have them. It was at a brewery down in Berkshire. And I said, who was your photographer? And they went, you might have heard of him, Sean Bell. And I went, what? I went, he was your photographer for the wedding. And I was just like, oh God. And then I got to the brewery, and they just had this massive, it was like cinema screen, and it was Sean's photos. And my heart just dropped. I was like, these are insane. And I'm taking pictures in the brewery. I hope they don't think it's going to look like that, because the light and everything, and it's Sean Bell that's taken these. And but then they like those photos as well.
Yeah, it just shows that they've got good taste. Yourself and Sean, they obviously value photography.
Yeah, they totally did. They totally did. Yeah, but with the money, going back to the money, I don't want to sound like I'm skirting around it. You saying about some people having lower numbers for next year. I went through a phase at the beginning of this year of taking quite a few bookings for next year, and then it really tailed off. As soon as the wedding started, which is normal for me. I take the majority of my bookings in the first 4 months of each year and the last 4 months of each year. So when they tail off in the middle, during wedding season, essentially, it doesn't bother me that much. But I have heard so many people saying our numbers are down next year. Next year is going to be the equivalent to me of what 2019 was. 2019 for me was this year for me. It was really quiet, and then the shitstorm of 2020 happened anyway, so we had to deal with all the postponements anyway, with potentially, hopefully, new bookings coming in. And I genuinely think not many people are getting married next year, and people need to chill out a bit about the numbers you're getting for next year. It's because we've been so busy the last 24 months that we expect to be shooting that volume every year, and you're not. And the photographers that are putting up on Instagram, I'm fully booked for next year already. Are you?
Yeah.
And what does fully booked mean? And it's kind of like, I'll get back to all the inquiries I got this weekend, and I'm like looking at my email, just all the inquiries I got, and it's not syncing up. And everyone that I talk to is also saying the same as you just mentioned, that next year is going to be quieter, and I'm cool with that, because we've had an insane last few years. We need a year to get back and re-energize, don't we?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of factors.
These greys and these bags have come from COVID, from what the last 2 or 3 years have brought on, not for any other reason. Well, and age.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors at play with the fact that a lot of people have less bookings, is like the economic landscape and knock on from COVID and stuff. So yeah, I think anybody that's having a wobble on their pricing structure, they probably just need to stay strong and maybe look at doing a wee bit of different marketing, or just seeing how they can, as Simon says, appear as if they're offering more value now than before.
No, totally.
And whether that's just in the wording of your website or something,
Well, it's kind of why I've gone back to my. I don't like it when you go to a pub and you get the menu and it's pages and pages and pages of options. I instantly just want to walk out. When I go into a pub and it's just one A4 crappy printed sheet of paper, I love that, because they're giving you 5 options, and it's highly unlikely you're not going to want one of those options. So I kind of keep it simple. I do say that if my full day package, if you need something a bit more bespoke, like you need me for multiple days, like say if it was an Indian wedding, or if you needed me for multiple ceremonies, or even if you just needed me for 2 hours, still get in contact, because it might be a Wednesday down the road at Nottingham Registry Office, and I will be available, and we can talk about numbers, and I'll give you a bespoke quote then. But I'm not going to put 100 different options on my website, because people always want the best option for the least amount of money, whether they see value in photography or whether they think you're even good at what you do.
I do want to bring attention to something that you said. Is like how some photographers have got on their website all fully booked. Now, we've had guests on this podcast who use that as a marketing ploy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's smoke and mirrors. People don't get put off if you see another photographer putting that out.
But the thing is, this is me being. I'm not an educator. I do one-to-ones. I do workshops. I'd never want to be branded as an educator. I tell photographers, if you put that on an Instagram story, I'm fully booked, look how great I am, that's for all the other photographers to get jealous about. You put that on there and a couple want to book you for their 4-day wedding in New York, they're going to see that, oh, he's fully booked, we won't contact them. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
If it's smoke and mirrors because you want to come across busy and all that, you could be turning down the most amazing wedding, the most amazing amount of money, because you want to appear busy. Sometimes it's best just to be quiet, and just be humble, get on with your life, leave other people to sort their business out. But then I suppose it sounds a bit preachy, me saying that and telling people to get on with your own life, when I'm telling you what to put on Instagram. So social media with me, I've already posted my last Instagram post of the year. I'm fed. I just want December off it. I'll still go on it and scroll needlessly amazing photos and feel shit about what I produce. but at the same time, January will come and I'll probably have got a few blogs done over the next few weeks, and I can put them up. It is smoke and mirrors, and I've been guilty of it in the past as well, and it's a learning curve, and it's kind of why the mistakes I said I've made over the years I don't make again now. And when I do workshops, I tell people, do it once, I guarantee you'll find out. You'll be photographing a wedding, and somebody say, "Oh, we wanted to book you 2 years ago, but you said you were fully booked." "Oh, where was the wedding?" "I was in Tuscany." It's happened. It's happened. I've had somebody say to me, "We wanted to book you, but you had said you were fully booked." So it's me slating myself for something I've done in the past. Do you know what I mean? It's again common sense, isn't it? And it's don't feel that you always have to be posting stuff, because you'll get to a point where you're posting negative stuff, because you've gone full circle of everything that you've got that's positive to say about everything you've done. And I think it was Sam Hurd said a few years ago, he went 1 year with hardly posting anything in the summer, but then he had so much great content to post during the winter when people actually book. And that year that I remember seeing his podcast where he said that, it got to winter and I didn't have anything to post because I put it all out to the world. Like 20 minutes after I'd edited it during the summer. So that's something I'm taking into next year. Next year, I'm not going to be so hot off the press with like putting stuff out onto social media. Once I've got excited about it, I'm going to park it up and let it sit there, and then I'll post it during those inquiry months like autumn and spring.
But then you don't always need to be posting fresh images all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you can rehash your favourites.
Yeah, rehash your favorites. Go back to your old galleries. Like, I mean, you could even go that. I mean, you could go back to a couple of years ago if your colouring is different. Recolor it, like post it. Like,
Well, I went back to
stuff.
2007. Last week, I did a blog post about the last Reading Festival that I shot in 2007.
Oh yeah.
Because I was transferring all my hard drives across because I had a hard drive die on me, and luckily it was backed up. But it's always those moments where you're just like, right, I need to make another backup for the backups. Mm-hmm. So I was putting them across, and I was like, cool, I haven't seen these pictures for a while. So I looked through them, and there were just so many pictures that I either hadn't edited or I dismissed back in 2007, and it was just like a bit of a walk down memory lane. I thought this will make a nice blog post and show that I'm not just a one-trick pony that only does weddings. And then you do, and then off the back of that, I got an inquiry from somebody that said, "Oh, we go to Reading every year. It's a shame that you don't do weddings." I was like, "I'll go wherever you want, but where's a wedding?" Then we got chatting off that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, let's talk a bit about post-production then. So what is your, once you've shot a wedding and you're importing the cards, how are you backing stuff up? Like, how many locations and stuff? Get a bit technical on that.
Well, like I said earlier, I sleep like a baby the night before a wedding nowadays, but the night after a wedding, I've been known not to, like, because I don't do back-to-backs anymore, weddings on the trot, I've been known to get back to the premiere and I'll still be awake at like 4 a.m. just because I stay quite late at these weddings and I'm on the dance floor really in amongst it. Your head's just ringing, your head's crammed from all the 10-12 hours of concentrating, the noise of the band, and I just back up as soon as I get back to the hotel or as soon as I get home. Just it's what I've always done. It's just part of the process, part of my workflow. I totally understand people that don't look at the pictures for days on end because they just want to put it to bed and move on to the next one. But I like to know that everything's backed up. So I've just on the MacBook Pro 13-inch. I do all my editing off it as well. I thought it was going to be too small when I got it 2 years ago when my 16-inch MacBook Pro died, but because I do a lot of weddings in London, so if I'm on the train, the 13-inch MacBook Pro's perfect for me. Yeah. I just put just a little SanDisk SSD hard drive, the 2 terabyte ones. I put all the cards on that. I generally shoot between 7,000 over the course of a 10-12 hour wedding, and that's over three camera bodies as well. So I'll have the 20mm on one A7 IV in my shoulder bag with my flash gun, batteries, paracetamol, all the other stuff that I need. The 35mm GM as my main camera on my holdfast harness on my right side, and then on the left side is just the 85mm, also on an A7 IV. And then I just load it all onto there while I'm having a beer or a cup of tea in the hotel. It always seems to take forever, doesn't it? Just watching it go across, even with like the fastest equipment and the best hard drive. It's because as years go on, the cameras are getting more megapixels. So we're just constantly staying in the state of the bar going so slow. Yeah. And then once all those are across, I'll import them straight into Lightroom. I don't use I used to use what was it called for Colin? Photo Mechanic. Yeah. But I've used Sam Hurd's speed hacks for that. He displays on his Patreon page, and he just shows you the settings to set your computer out so that you can go through all the images as fast as if you're doing them through Photo Mechanic. I import all of them onto a library on Lightroom. I make smart previews of all of them, and then I'll apply my preset to all of them. This is all before I've gone to bed. Because I'm wired. It would either be that or me lying there just boom, 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 thinking, and having the distractions of the evening. I like to send out about 50 to 60 previews within a week of the wedding. A lot of the time I've edited like 10 or 12 of them the following day. And depending on where I am in the country and what I've got fixed for the following day and the kind of mood I'm in. Sometimes I put them up on Instagram like within 24 hours, and I guarantee the first person to like them and the first person to message you will be the person you've tagged in them, the bride or groom, the couple, and even after all these years, it's just like, they like them. They like me.
Yeah.
Because you know that the rest of the edit is going to be similar because you've chosen 10 or 20 pictures to place into an Instagram post as the story of the day, and then they're going to get a bigger preview at the end of the week, and then after 4 weeks they get the final edit. So 4 weeks is my turnaround. It has been for a while. I mean, during COVID with the postponements, my turnaround was between 6 and 8 weeks, but even then, and I don't blame couples. They want to see the pictures as quick as anything while they're still in their wedding bubble.
Yeah, I get that as well.
Some of them completely, even when I say goodbye, some of them are pissed as a fart, and they're like, when do we get the pictures?
Yeah.
Seriously. It's like, I've told you, it's on the website. I told you to your face on the Zoom call. I'm having a laugh with them, but at the same time, they'll be like, we're really looking forward. I can tell. Yeah. It's like, you've still got another hour left. Enjoy the wedding. So, but it's nice because you see they're that excited about it. And that's why they invested in you. And that's going back to knowing what you're worth. Yeah. And this is what photographers need to take away from the weddings. When you leave a wedding, somebody's genuinely sad that you're going, and they're like, "No, stay, have a drink." And you're like, "I've already had 2. You've given me. Yeah, it was nice that you gave me the meal. Nice. Yeah, I've got to go. But delivering the images and knowing that people, and then somebody left me a Google review a few weeks ago before I'd even delivered the wedding, and so, a few years ago, I would have seen that as immense pressure. Yeah. Because I'm like, wow, I've got to like really make sure that I edit the blinders of this one. But now I'm just like, wow, that's just so appreciative, isn't it? Yeah. They've not even had the full gallery yet, and they're leaving you like 5-star review, and they're being really heartfelt, and they're like saying nice things like, oh, he just blended in. He was like one of the guests. He chatted to everyone. He even got a great picture of Dad. We've not got one great picture of Dad. So, and then when it comes to the edit, I'm very, very quick. I don't kind of edit for hours and hours on end like I used to. I do like to have breaks now, just because I know that if you just spend too much time doing it, the quality of the edit just decreases, because you just feel like, so I use power keys to edit. Yep. So I have the keyboard set up, so I very rarely touch the tracker. Don't have a mouse or anything like that. Just put some music on. How do you balance like preserving like natural moments with like trying to get a polished look? Or is the polished look not really I don't mean polished, I mean a cohesive look? Well, I've had the same preset for since I went over to Sony. I've used the same preset. That's slightly tweaked over the years, but still, if you looked at a picture that I took on the first ever wedding I shot with the Sonys was a 3-day wedding in France. My mate that told me to get the Sonys went, "Are you mental?" He's just like, "You're changing systems, and the first wedding you're going to shoot with her is abroad." And I was just like, well, in at the deep end, isn't it? But I still took a Nikon with me, and it made me learn the system so quickly, and it just made me realize how similar to Nikon's the Sonys are, especially how the image is reproduced on what the sensor captures. The dynamic range on the Sonys is amazing. So I rely on that a lot for what I process, because when I'm taking the picture and I know that the colors are a bit off of that, I know that Lightroom is so fantastic. I use a white balance pipette in an insane amount. Once my preset's applied, a lot of people like to get a base layer of all their images perfectly white balanced and then apply a grade or apply a preset, whereas I apply the preset so that I'm looking at my images and my finished product before I've even started editing it. And because I'm old school and I like to get the exposure correct when I press the button, I don't have to do a lot of tweaking. I very rarely spend more than a minute on each edit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised you're saying that because, and I was looking it up. Like Sony do make the Nikon sensors, so they are the same sensors. So I can understand.
Yeah, the last bunch of the Nikon, I think the D850 that I had was a Sony sensor in the Nikon, and it's the same as. Isn't it Tamron? I've used a Tamron lens before on a Sony, and I was just like, oh wow, it's the contrast and everything. And I later found out I think Sony own like 49% of Tamron or something. So you're kind of just like, well, there's no surprise that there's similarities.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when I went into using a Sony camera, I just found the edit. I found the edit hard to begin with because the dynamic range was there, but I only found it hard because it was user error. That I had too much dynamic range, and I was just like, oh, should I try and blow the highlights here? And I was like, well, no, I didn't expose it to blow the highlights, so why am I trying to do that? So, and that's kind of when you either need to get somebody else to look at your images and be honest. Luckily, I've got a good group of photography friends that are honest, and even when I've taken my prices off the website, they've been like, why are you doing that? It either comes down to you just being like, oh, I just want to try some new packages, and when somebody inquires, but then it never works out well for me. I only do well when I'm upfront and I put my prices on the website, and the same with the editing. It only ever works out well when I stick to what I know works.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
On my workshops, I've had people be like, oh, when are you going to do a preset? I'll never do it. Well, never say never, but I can't imagine ever selling my preset because it's just been tweaked over time. Well, it wasn't mine to begin with. So it's one that I would have bought back in 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And I've just tweaked, and it's so far away from the original preset. But at the same time, I don't want to be scrolling through Instagram and where people say, friends and family say to me, oh, we can see it's one of your pictures before we've even seen your name. I love that.
Yeah.
I would hate that, but I'd hate to sell a preset and then people would just be like, oh no, it's not by so-and-so. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see it as a good lucrative from a business perspective, but from a personal thing, I would kind of just be like, oh God, that looks just like mine.
Yeah.
But you're more than your preset, Ed. You're more than your preset, okay?
Yeah, especially if it's black and white. You're much more if you go black and white.
Now, over your years of experience in different fields of photography, is there any little tricks, whether it's practical or technical, that are like really sort of game changer that like change the way you shoot weddings? Like any wee sort of tweaks that are like, that's just perfect?
From a technical point of view, or
either technical or practical, I guess. Like
from practical, I would be honest with people when you fuck up. If you genuinely cock up on a wedding day, don't try and hide it. Especially if it's early on in the day and there's a potential of you being able to do something again. I've cocked up a confetti shot before when I was on Fuji because I pressed a button, the preview white balance button where you press so that if you're on a dance floor, it turns the camera essentially back into a DSLR. So what you're seeing is it's like you're looking through an optical viewfinder rather than the EVF. So I do that so that I can see what's in front of me rather than it being a black screen.
Yeah.
Other than when I'm going like that and looking like an idiot. So I accidentally pressed that coming out of a church, and I was on fully manual mode. So I'd been photographing in the church, came out, set up the confetti line, and they came out, and it looked amazing. And I just went, oh, something doesn't feel right. And I instantly looked, and it was just a screen of white. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm dying here. And never, ever. And the couple are just getting into the car. And instantly I had to make that quick decision, confess. So in front of like 80 guests, I just went, I just cocked up, and everyone just looked at me and they were, no, he didn't. And
Yeah.
I was just like, yes, I just had the camera on the wrong setting, and I was just like, oh, this is my first wedding. It wasn't. It was like my 200th wedding or something.
Yeah.
I told the couple, they found it hilarious. They still had shitloads of confetti left because they had, like everyone, well, all my couples, buy way too much, and half it doesn't get used. So I just went, can you just quickly run in there? And they found it hilarious. They came out with bigger smiles on their faces. Everyone took the piss out of me. All the guests were being over animated with their expression, going, oh, he's not going to get this. He's a shit photographer. They're going like that. And it just made some of the best confetti shots I've ever got were from that one. But
amazing.
Because I had fessed up, I'm not saying the confetti shot is the most important shot. And the couple might have just... After the wedding, I could have said, oh, I cocked up, sorry. But there's two ways. They might have been okay with it. They might have been like, oh, God, we hired a wedding photographer and he couldn't even get the confetti shot.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get it. I fessed up immediately. And from that, I've never made, touch wood, I've never made like a massive... I've had a card corrupt on me before, and everything... still backed up onto the second card, but at the same time I still reshot what I had just shot anyway, because I was just like, there's still potential for that second card to be corrupted when I put that in the... So not a lot of photographers think like that. They just rely on technology. But if you can impart onto the couple that you are a true professional, even when you cock up, we're only human. Yeah. And the rest of that day, I did see a change in that couple after that point. They almost respected me more because they thought, well, this is what we've paid for. Not for him to cock up all day long, but for him to cock up and own it and be upfront and tell it. And I learned a lot from that. Yeah. So that and just shooting lots. People just expect to get very good very quick nowadays. And me saying that I sleep like a baby the night before a wedding, I've been doing this 26, 27 years, only weddings for the last 10 years, and only over the last 3 years have I been able to sleep well like a baby the night before a wedding. Up until that point, I still had all the nerves, and there will get to a point where you have the confidence in your own ability and the confidence in your equipment, but don't expect to be amazing straight away. It takes a long time.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been making wedding films for 13 years. I still can't sleep, so sometimes it's just you have to live with it. But
well, sometimes you might have. I had one couple that had to postpone, sadly, quite a few times because of COVID. And I remember finally getting to their wedding, looking at the email thing, and it was 87 emails over the course of like 3 years. And I was just like, I'd almost felt like I'd already earned the money from all the admin that I'd put on it. And I went into that stupidly thinking, oh God, they're just going to be control freaks because this wedding has just consumed them for so long. And it was one of the best weddings ever, one of the nicest couples. I didn't do a single group photo at that. They said, oh no, we just admire your documentary approach. Just enjoy yourself. Help yourself to the free bar, help yourself to canapes, do this, do that. Go whenever you feel the need to. And because they gave me that freedom, they got the best out of me. Yeah. I stayed mega late. And I just became part of the party, and it was. But I went in nervous and with a preconceived idea that because there'd been so much email contact, they were probably just like, God, we've taken up so much of his time already. I hope he wants to be here, and they couldn't have been more wrong. I was just happy they were finally getting married.
Yeah. Well, it's now my favorite part of the podcast. The visual part of the podcast.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. For our audio listeners.
You tell.
So, Ed, this is called Show and Tell, where we show you some of your images, and I want you to tell me the backstory or your mindset.
Oh, I hope they're mine and not shot by a second photographer like I've had in the past.
Well, it's going to be... So
during COVID. During COVID, I did a camera club Zoom meeting with like 50 people and me, And the person leading it, he goes, "We've got 10 of your best photos here," and he went through them, and the first 2 were shot by a second photographer. And again, just being honest, I instantly said, "They're really good. I didn't take them."
Oh God! Well, yeah, okay, all right. Well, this is interesting.
Now, you'll be glad to hear that I've only had a second shooter on like maybe 2 of my last 150 weddings. I shoot alone. I shoot alone all the time.
Are we off to a good start with this one? Is this yours?
Yes, that's
Good.
mine from,
there we go.
from earlier. Actually, that was only shot a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Well, the reason, not the reason, but when I came across this, I instantly knew this venue because this is the first venue that we had travelled down to England for back in our early days. So
deep south.
Yeah.
Yes, so I remember this wedding venue, and then I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, you've got, well, I actually thought this person was facing forward and the hair was all over her face, which is not the case. She's facing away, and you've got like a bridesmaid or a bride in this wonderful pink frilly dress, but she's on her back with her legs up in the air, and I thought, what the hell is going on here?
I attract the right clients, don't I?
And I love images like this. Plus, as people know, guests or people on a floor. I'm a big fan of people just lying down on the floor. So tell me about this image. What is the backstory behind this and the bride on the floor, and what made you take this image?
Well, that's that to me is what my wedding photography is all about. Just space, context, telling a story, why I love the 35mm lens, that viewpoint so much, and fun. The biggest part of my branding, my website, my ethos, my photography is fun. It's a wedding day. Why wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah.
I don't get people booking me for fine art, moody, don't smile pictures. They book me for the fun, and she was fun. So as you can see, she had a change of dress in the evening. I remember I knew that she had it because when I saw it in the morning, I photographed it on the hanger, and I thought, oh, that's a really cool, really bespoke, really, really nice dress, designer dress. And then weddings work. You forget everything that happened in the first 20 minutes, don't you? Because you're trying to win people over, you're trying to make people feel comfortable. Yeah. And I just completely forgot she had a second dress. And then you go up, so this is at Brimpton Court, isn't it? In Somerset. So just behind me is the evening venue, isn't it, where they have the party?
Yeah,
so I was up. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So I was up there just photographing the guests coming up, and some evening guests arriving, and they just lit the stoves outside, or what they called the mine's gone blank.
The fire pits.
The fire pits. Yeah. They just lit the fire pits. So I was around there just warming up, photographing kids with the s'mores and the marshmallows and that. And then I just see her come out, and I thought, she had a change of dress. So I leg it. So this is what you pay. This is where your money goes with me. I bomb it down because I could just see her, and the light was beautiful. It was that evening summer light, like early September. Bomb it down, and I just took a few portraits of her not doing this. So the pictures that you don't see, or the pictures that made the Instagram post, are just of her twirling and posing. And then I just turn my back, and then she's just there in front of her mate, and she just rolls on her back. I didn't ask her to do that. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I was in the right place, right time, and that's how I wanted to frame it, rather than running up to her and getting a really close shot, because I thought that the guest gave it not some scale, but it just gives it more depth. If that guest wasn't there, it would still be an all right image, but because there's a guest there looking at her, whatever she's thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember I got even closer after I took that shot, and then I vaguely remember, I think she said to me, "This is why we booked you," just because she could see that I was getting fun from me personally getting fun from taking it.
But why did she get on her back? Like, what?
I don't alcohol probably.
Oh, right, okay. Did she do that as a pose for the photograph, or was it just like?
No, I don't think it wasn't, because if you look on the Instagram post that I put up the day after the wedding, or 48 hours after the wedding, it would have just been a pretty picture of her twirling, portrait mode, because it was for Instagram.
Yeah.
So I probably didn't, when I took those, that picture, I thought, oh, that's a good one, but I'll hold on to it for a later Instagram post. And in the end, I think I posted that picture with her testimonial. The Google review was pretty good. So I've used that picture on the My Approach page, I think, with a new quote, because that quote, I can't remember what it is now, but it was something about,
if you're looking for a laid-back, chilled-out, kind, funny, passionate legend who delivers stunning photos somewhere between Rolling Stones and Vogue magazine, then Ed is your guy.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a fucking good quote. Jesus.
Exactly. It's dynamite, isn't it? Between Rolling Stone and Vogue, and I'm just like, wow, that's If I was to write a quote for myself, that would be it. But the fact that I'm not that clever to think of something like that.
You couldn't come up with that yourself.
No, and that quote goes with that picture so well.
The before we move on, just the one thing that I love about this image is she's making eye contact with your lens. Direct eye contact. So there was like, if it was an accident, then it was well timed, or if it wasn't, then what was going through her mind? She
knew my presence was there, because I had turned my back and I was walking back up to the park. I'd probably I'm very conscious of the fact that when I do pose pictures, even if it's like the bride on her own, groom on their own, I don't want it to take over the day. With grooms as well, you probably get 10 snaps and then they're dead behind the eyes. They just don't want to be posing for you anymore, and I get that, and I don't take offense to it. With brides, some brides are like really, really nervous. Some brides love it. If they've had a few to drink as well, they might be even more relaxed about being photographed. But I had seen that the light had gone. I'm getting back up to the party, but then as I'm walking away, I'm probably walking away looking at the cameras, because I'm still in press photographer mode where I do chimp a lot during the day. And then I probably just turned around and she made eye contact. I took 3 frames of that, and the other 2 frames, her legs just weren't in. I love that, because her legs are right over her head. You can't get more enthusiasm than that, can you?
But
and that was a wild party as well. I mean, the minute I took that photo, an hour before first dance, I knew that, and they had booked me for my full day package as well. So I stayed mega late at that, and I stayed till the end when the band finished, and the band were really good at that wedding, and everyone. It's a tiny dance floor there, isn't it? Which is strange, because it's the biggest venue.
You're right. It's huge.
Yeah. Next image?
Yeah, next image. We won't spend as long, so don't worry.
Thanks for choosing that one, though, because along with the quote, it was one of my favourite shots of the year.
I didn't even realise, I can't even remember where I picked that image up, but I didn't even realise it was on your website. I think I might have grabbed it from Instagram. But, so this image...
Yeah, there's a guess that the guest just didn't like being photographed all day.
Yeah.
I think it was the bride's aunt, and because she didn't like being photographed all day, I love this shot because you still can't see her face.
Yeah.
But the whole picture is telling me I still don't like being photographed, even though I know you're photographing me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like this primarily because I know that there are people on the wedding day who are like this and treat you like this, and not in a bad way, just like, well, maybe sometimes in a bad way, I don't know, but
sometimes they do, don't they?
Even if it's in a bad way, I always like to be like, I'm now gonna make this a game, and you're you're unfortunately you've now you've
entered the game.
You've entered the game, you idiot.
I feel like you can look at this and sense the humor in it, though. Like it's not one of those stop taking my photo. It's like you can't get me because I've got a fan in my face.
Because if it had been like that, it would be a totally different story.
Yes, you're right. But the fact that you can't see her face and she's hugging the bride, but she obviously can't see you either, but she knows you there. Like she's clocked
my
you.
presence.
I always like those images. So
and I'm not close there either. I think that was the 50mm or the 85. I think that was one of the weddings I shot with the 50mm 1.2. So I was probably a good 7 or 8 feet away, and I've probably cropped into that a little bit just to get away the messiness of the background.
But yeah, so what are you like me? Did you try and make a game of this, or?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
like you. If somebody comes up to me and tells me that, I just say, "Oh, it's all right. I like a challenge." And then it's people nowadays they see, even me. I'm trying to be sensitive about the words I'm using. They either get kind-hearted banter or they don't. They've instantly you've not instantly got to win somebody over, but you've instantly got to let them know that you're friendly and you're approachable. And you're not there to be an arse. But I've had people come up to me as I'm walking back to the car and apologise for not smiling or turning away every time they've seen me. And then I've said, no, it's okay. I got a shot of you within 10 minutes of me being there. So I knew not to bother you. And you can't expect to get a photograph of every single guest looking their best. And I think I've even got, my contract has stayed the same throughout my whole career, and I think I do have a clause in there that says I cannot promise I'll get a photograph of every single person at your wedding, and it's mainly for this sole reason. I've had in the early days people hide from the camera, and in some respects, I suppose, before I've had a drink or two, I don't like being photographed. It takes me a bit of time to be all right around a camera and put the fake smile on, isn't it?
Yeah. But I like making it into a game. Going back to your contract, was it a Santa Claus? What's that next one? I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
That was good.
I'm sorry. For those of you who are just listening, I'm wearing a Santa hat. It's not even December yet, but I've got my Santa hat on. Anyway.
If you're watching in July.
So I chose this image because, kids, I mean, has she got a tear in her eye? Now I'm seeing it on the big screen. It looks like she's got a tear in her eye, which is quite nice. But I always have conversations with Greg where I'm like, maybe we should buy like a little GoPro camera to give to kids so that they can run around and you get to see a wedding from their point of view. And I used to do this.
We have done it before.
We have done it before back in, like, it was completely unusable. It was just to entertain the kids, really. Because it was like all handheld. But now that you've got like gyros and all sorts of tech and cameras, you could get a nice handheld shot for sure from a kid. But I like this, and I wanted to know, did you give this kid your camera? Was this a guest camera? Did you interact with this little child? Like, what was your...
That was the groom at the wedding. He was a photographer. That was, I think, last year or the year before, and it was I think it was down in Devon. And there were quite a few people at the wedding that were also into photography and had photography businesses. And I think she's holding on to her mum's Olympus Trip camera, and she was just going around with it on the dance floor. And the mum was just thought, well, she's happy doing that. She can run the roll of the film off on that. And I just spotted. And I remember it wasn't a very well lit dance floor. It was one of those dance floors where I did rely on the flash gun. Because the band or the DJ that had set up, the lights were probably set up well, but they just weren't working for me and that kind of marquee environment. And then I just noticed that a white light kind of stayed on the dance floor at a point where nobody else was on the dance floor. So I think I was just doing like my usual circuit of like, when's something going to happen? And that something happened. And it's just about being on. This is why I say the day after a wedding, I'm useless to anyone, because my mind's just frazzled, because the overthinking that us photographers and videographers have to endure is just immense. And I was just walking by, I was switched on. I think I took about 4 frames, and it was just her expression. And then, when I got that on the big screen, I was like, is that a tear? Or?
Plus the light, like you mentioned, the lighting, it's perfect. Like
it was perfect for that split second.
You kind of have you create I can't remember what they call it, but you know, when you're using lighting for interviews, or like the aesthetic light is to like create this little triangle in the dark side of the face with the light here, and you've done that perfectly, and it is perfect, and it has illuminated that tear. So it's like, I don't know.
Flash would have killed that. Flash would have completely killed it off. So in the evenings, I generally like to put the 85mm camera off the hold fast and put that back in the shoulder bag. If there's a band or a DJ, I'll hide my bag around with the DJ. So I'm going around, I'm not knocking into people. And I'll keep the flash on the 24mm or the 20mm. And with the 35 GM, because it's such an insanely good lens, there's a reason why it costs what it does. It's just so good. It picks up in lighting conditions like this, and that might have been shot on the 51.2. I can't remember. That looks like when I had the 51.2. But what I'm saying is, one of my cameras, which will have a standard length on it, 35 or 50, will be available light, no flash on it, and the 24-20mm will have the flash gun on. In that split second, I had to think, what do I do? Do I flash the camera in her face, run the risk of her going, photographer, just like bombarding me? Or can I see that she's vulnerable and just use an available light camera where she had seen me using the camera with a flash. She was probably waiting for the flash to fire off. But because it didn't, it gave me the chance to get a few shots. And again, just luck when the light is hitting them right.
Yeah.
And then you've black and white it. Nice.
Oh god, black! Nice. It was horrendous colours. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The gels on it bouncing off the off coloured marquee with the light, the ambient lights coming from outside, and the festoon lights bringing the warmth on one side. It was just black and white.
Yeah.
If it's shite, black and white. Yeah.
But I think it adds. Obviously, you're taking away the shit light, but you're giving it
the punch,
a moment here. You're letting it kind of breathe in black and white. So I like that. Next image.
I like it as well because there was nobody else on the dance floor, so she was so isolated.
So I tried to keep myself to 3, but it's really hard. So I think the first show and tell was 3, and then it went 4, and then it's So here's another image, and I liked it because. This is kind of a weird nothing moment. That
my Seinfeld shot.
But I love these type of moments, because usually, and obviously I said this earlier, like this is probably an image that many photographers would just put out of the gallery, but you've put it in, and it's just so refreshing. But why did you take this picture? And
everything about it is what I would love to shoot. When I was on Fuji, I was shooting every wedding like this because it's not bokeh mad, it's not depth of field, it's layers, isn't it? It's all about stuff happening from left to right of the screen, front to back, colours, cool people just being themselves. You got the lady in the middle in the green dress with the purple boots on, and then you've got the fur coat, and even her hair slicked back and the cool makeup.
Was there a colour theme to this wedding? Because you've got this the teal blue green here, teal blue green here, teal blue green here, and then the same colour right at the side. So it's like you're splitting it into like thirds.
It was one of my last year. I shot a ridiculous amount of weddings in London, so a lot of people don't realise that I'm based in Nottinghamshire. They see my wedding galleries and presume that I'm based in London. So sometimes even on Zooms, they'll just be like, "Oh, well, can we meet up for like a beer and that?" And I'm just like, "Oh, do you live in the Midlands?" And they're like, "What can you meet us down in Camden?" And I'm like, "No, go on." It's good that I get that many London weddings, and this was at Hackney Town Hall. This is on Hackney Town Hall steps, waiting for the confetti shot to happen. And it's generally when you come out of Hackney Town Hall, and if people again have got somebody in charge, there'd be just 2 rows for the confetti shot. So I come out and it's all set up for me. I love it at venues when people presume that us photographers and videographers are also the confetti guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we kind of just, I'm not shouting at your wedding. I'll instruct people where to go, and then they can tell people, but I'm not going to be. Remember that wedding we went to where the photographer was just loud all day? I don't want that review. So I come out of this and everything's happening in front of you. I turn around and that's happening right behind me, and I find that just a dynamite shot. I just see that and everything's happening, and I just take the picture. I guarantee the 5 frames before it or the 5 frames after won't be going back to perfection, won't be aligned how I want them to be. People will just be over other people. One person won't be in it. The eye contact of this person, the bridesmaid on the far right.
Yeah.
That it doesn't bother me. They're not like massively happy in it.
I know.
It's just the layering of it all. It's old school street photography, that is, and I take a lot of I don't get inspiration from other wedding photographers. I get it from all my books, street photography, and it's shots like that remind me of being a press photographer and what gave me a buzz. But at the same time, you take that, you're patting yourself on the back because you got that, and you're like, I've got to do the confetti shot now. and as much as you're not dumbing it down and you're not bringing yourself down to earth, but you've now got to do the must-have shot that they're expecting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
You know they're going to get the confetti shot and they'll be happy with that, but I'd like to think they'd look at this and be like, oh, this is an interesting shot.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of shot that I would get blown up if I did a wedding fair to stop the people going from 3 wedding photographers next to me then to me. I would want them to go, well, this is something different, this is something interesting, I want to chat to this photographer. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, like Simon said that a lot of photographers might have taken it out of the gallery. I think most would leave this in the gallery because they'd appreciate it on their own, but they probably wouldn't post it on social media.
Yeah,
they'd be like,
maybe.
oh, it's not a beauty shot of the couple, I won't post that, because they think the couples are going to want to see those hero shots, but this speaks more than those, definitely.
Yeah, you can't brand yourself as a storytelling photographer if you don't tell a story. It's going back to like the people that say, oh, I'm a storyteller. It's a wedding day, of course it's a story. It's just it's a buzzword, it's an SEO boosting word, but if you can't back that up without pictures of the story of the day, you're doing a disservice to not only the couples that have paid you a lot of money to be there, but your future couples that are wanting to get these sorts of images from their day.
Yeah. I kind of want to put this online and have a poll that says, would you post this on your wedding gallery?
Yeah, do it if you want. Yeah.
All right. I'll do that.
Is there one more, did you say?
Nothing. That's it. That's 4. That's 4, Greg. How much more do you want?
Sorry.
Jesus, more is less. God. Ed, we're coming to the end, but obviously you've had a long career in this industry. If you were to summarize it into one word or one phrase, how would you define your career so far?
Manic.
Manic.
It's been very, very busy. It doesn't feel like 5 minutes ago that I started, that I left college, and I thought you were going to end that sentence with, it's been a very long career, when do you see it ending? This is kind of a conversation that I have had over the last couple of years with other photographer friends, some of those photographer friends that have finished being wedding photographers and gone on to other things. I'm personally not good at anything else other than taking photographs. So as far as I'm concerned, I can't see myself doing anything else. It's been absolutely manic. It's been really, really busy, but I wouldn't have changed the minor jobs that I've had to the major jobs. I wouldn't have changed the years where I've been absolutely rammed busy to where I am now, having a bit of space and a bit of time and being able to manage my diary better. But it's definitely been very manic, which is which some people see as a negative thing, and I see it as a positive thing at the end.
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken to a few photographers, and they've mentioned the fact that they've got like an idea, like an exit strategy planned.
Yeah.
But they've said that, and they've still not bloody left.
Yeah.
So,
well, no, mine was always 10 years ago. I was just like, if I'm still doing this at 45, that would be great. And now I'm thinking, is it at 50 or is it at 55? Because I just see, like I said, I'm guilty of it. I consume too much social media through Instagram. I'm totally addicted to scrolling and just seeing how good really young photographers are and how they're getting good really quickly. But at the same time, some of them are like doing workshops after like a year or two. And a part of me is just like, have you got enough knowledge to be sharing that with the attendees on the course, or is it just a styled shoot? Yeah. And it's not them that I fear for, it's the couples that will book them and then be disappointed when the wedding day comes and they're like, we're just going off to do the portraits now, we'll be an hour and a half. Because that's how long they've had on the styled shoots. Yeah. And that's how long they'll be taking the couples away. I don't take my couples away for more than 10, 15 minutes. And they're always shocked when I'm like, we're done. Oh, have you got enough? Well, this is fantastic. Yeah, we can go get pissed now. And they're like, yeah, it's your wedding day. Enjoy it. Yeah. So...
Yeah, I get you. And you're right, by the way. There are a lot of young folk doing workshops. Workshops is one thing. Like... what's it called when you build your portfolio? Portfolio builders? No, what's the
style shoot?
A style shoot. Yeah, okay. But workshops are different. Like, do you have enough experience to me? I don't know.
I don't know. Some do, because I look at them, and if their workshop's going to be, because I don't know anything about Reels. I don't really know anything about SEO anymore because I'm out of that loop. So if the people are doing the workshops and they're doing it from a salesy approach, and they're saying, oh, you need to buy this, you need to buy that, you need to do this SEO, you need to have a reel on, this is the algorithms and this is how you're fighting the algorithm. Go on those websites, go on those workshops instead of coming to me, because I'm old school. I'm going to show you that you can go on Amazon on Black Friday, buy 3 of the cheapest lenses and still shoot a wedding like I've shot it, because you're shooting it with this and your common sense and being a nice guy, rather than getting all the gear and then just turning up and knowing how you got the gig because you had the SEO and the reels. And it is difficult because I can't see myself doing this beyond 55. I just can't. I did a wedding last year, and there was a guy waiting outside. It was at the Ned in London, and it was bridal prep, and there was this guy who just hanging around, really good-looking guy, and waiting in the hallway, and he was just like pacing around. I just said, "Oh, are you waiting to go in?" And he said the name of the bride, and I went, "Oh, do you know her?" And he goes, "I'm her dad." And I went, "What?" I said, "How old are you?" And then he said his age, and I said, I'm that age." And he was just like, and then I was just like, I'm now photographing people getting married that could be my kids. Yeah. Because what I'm saying is, all of a sudden we've just got to this point. It's almost like the last 10 years I've been so busy with weddings. Which is why it blows my mind when you tell me the year that we shot that wedding together, because the one thing I remember about that wedding as well was when we finally managed to get them down to the beach. I go to Scotland a lot, and midges leave me alone. That's the only time I've been to weddings where I think I was even bragging to you guys. I was just like, look, they don't affect me. We got back up to the castle and my neck was just covered in bites, wasn't it? And I said, they've got through my trousers as well. And
they're vicious.
But that feels like 5 minutes ago talking about it now.
Yeah, I know.
And I just think it's a very weird industry where next year is going to be a weird year, but people don't need to stress out too much that it's going to be quieter, because I think 2025, it's got a nice ring to it, 2025, hasn't it? I think it could be a year where it'll be a lot. Am I just being really like...
No, I'm with you.
Hopeful.
I just keep thinking like, like 2015 seems, even saying it sounds like a future date in my head. That might be because of Back to the Future, actually, now that I think about it. Was it November 25? I can't remember. Anyway.
In 2019, though, I was just like, wow, 2020 sounds like so far away and so scientific.
Yeah.
It's next
But
year.
time's just disappearing. It's just disappearing.
Exactly. I mean, are you guys, like, for next year's diary, are you where you are at normally, or are you down?
Where are we, Greg? Where are we? Are we down?
We'll still need a few more to fill the sort of calendar, but we're happy with that, because that's how we normally are at this stage of the year. Like, we go into the new year with like, okay, we need a few more just to fill up the calendar.
Yeah,
but we know that we usually do book them in like January, February, March. So it's
and
not
the latecomer ones that come in, they're always really chilled and relaxed, and so they're the blasé ones that you sometimes, like, they'll send you an email if you're available. They'll just be like, "Where do we pay for the deposit?" And you're like, "Wow, that was easy."
That's the thing, and I mean, some of them they got some cash to splash, which is nice. You know. But Anyway,
so in wrapping up, do you have any book recommendations for our listeners? I know you've got a whole bunch of magazines and books next to you. Any photography books?
Have a look, which one's...
He's going for a show and tell as well.
Oh, I love a show and tell. Oh,
This is probably my latest one that I got.
Oh, what is that?
Photo Breakdown by Greg Williams.
Oh, right. Okay. Photo Breakdown. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a Leica photographer. And his stuff, it's just unbelievable. He photographs like the Academy Awards and.
Oh yeah. Is he all black and white? What's this?
The majority, I'd say like 80-90%. He does a lot of James Bond.
Yeah.
That Bill Murray on a miniature. That's cracking.
Yeah. So in this book as well, he just with every picture he breaks down the process behind the photos as well, so it's not only a good coffee table book, it's a good read as well. And he's like me, he's very simplicity is key. There's a picture of him, he's got like cameras hanging off him, but they're not like massive lenses. He shoots majority with the Leica Q, so it's a 28mm.
Oh wow.
But some of his pictures.
Kate Winslet photograph looks epic. What the fuck?
Yeah, the one in the water. Yeah.
Oh, we've seen that one before. Yeah.
But that book.
Greg Williams Photo Breakdowns: the story behind 100 photographs. And guess what? You can actually buy it for $35.85 on Prime. An actual book you can get hold of right now, ladies and gentlemen. That isn't hundreds of pounds.
I got it the week it came out, and it was it was at that price. So it was really good. But I've got no end of like Magnum books and street photography books.
Yeah.
But I would say mainly that one.
Yeah, we'll link that one in the show notes.
Hell yeah.
Another good one as well.
What's that one? It's because the monitor is so tiny. Can you read the title out so I can Google it and have a look?
It's Fred Herzog, Modern Colour.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, my main inspiration comes from looking at street photography and music videos as well. I've always
that's even better. Hardcover, £30. That's amazing.
If you're sticking with me, you're talking about bargains and scraping. I'll see you're right.
We'll link that one as well.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, if you want to buy one of these, Greg, I'd be all for the
Greg photo breakdowns. The Greg Williams one is brilliant, and
it sounds quite cool.
It's not, my attention span's not great, so reading a breakdown of a photo and it not being pages and pages, just like 2 paragraphs. And he also puts the camera data, that like the aperture and shutter speed, and what camera he used, what lens. So from a geeky perspective as well, it's good to see, and it's just good to see how simple his approach is. And if you check out any of his stuff on YouTube as well, and you just hear him talking, and he's just proper back to basics, and it's how I shoot a wedding. There's more than enough other stuff at a wedding to stress about, so you just strip it back and just make it really basic with how your workflow is on a wedding day, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. He's got YouTube. All right, nice. I'll definitely check that out.
You're going to become
Thanks,
obsessed
Claire.
with it now.
I might do.
Obsessed with them.
I do.
You will.
I do very easily get obsessed with specific things. So yeah, quite possibly. Well, that brings us to the end. Thank you very much for joining us. Where can people find you online if they wanted to check out your work or see more of your images, like the ones that we displayed on the TV?
So mainly my Instagram is at Ed Godden, and then my website is www.edgodden.co.uk. And yeah, I'm not very active on anything else. if I was a lot younger, I'd be on TikTok. but with things like reels on Instagram, it tends to be like my slideshows that I put up. I'm too busy in the zone on a wedding day to be getting my phone out and doing any behind the scenes stuff. People do it well. Some people do it very well. Some people just look like they spend more time doing that than they do taking the pictures, and that's my concern. That I would never want it to look like my sole focus wasn't on the paying couple.
Yeah. We didn't really get a chance to speak about your slideshows, but I do like that about your website. So if you're interested in checking out Ed's website, definitely interact with those slideshows, because I love a good slideshow. Anyway, people can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com. Instagram at perspectivebycinemate. Thank you to With Jack for sponsoring the episode. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks. Whoop. And if you have loved this episode, you can hit subscribe on our YouTube at www.youtube.com/@perspectivebycinemate, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you in the next episode. However,
in the meantime,
enjoy your life. Ho, ho, ho.